And here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome in. The Rob Brown Show is live. The Wednesday edition of the show gets bumping right now. How y'all doing, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome in. Great to have you once again. I am Rob Brown. The pleasure exclusively mine, sitting directly across from me on the other side of the metaphorical glass this AM. My man T2 Tim Snow, the Timinator, is in the building. What's up, fella?
Hey, how are you today?
Living the dream, buddy.
Right on.
You rolled up with a couple of Mountain Dews ready to go out the gate, buddy.
Yes, sir, man.
That kind of morning.
Yeah. That's my caffeine. I don't drink much coffee, so
I don't drink coffee at all.
I don't really drink it at all either. But.
I have tried hot. I have tried cold. I have tried iced. I have tried every combinations under the sun, and all it comes down to is that no matter what you put in it, coffee tastes like coffee, and coffee does not taste good.
I mean, I wouldn't say that it doesn't taste good. It's just something that I never really got into. I'll drink it every once in a while, but I don't drink it like every morning. No.
Yeah,
I would rather have like a nice ice cold Mountain Dew.
I respect that. Ladies and gentlemen, we have got a lot to get into today. I'm getting text saying the stream is not up and running. It should be. In fact, I see now that it is. You can go to the Fan Upstate on the social media, Twitter or Facebook, or you can get at me on Twitter at The Rob Brown Show. You can get at me on Twitch at The Rob Brown Show. You can get at me on YouTube at The Rob Brown Show and watch the stream from any of those destinations. You can come behind the scenes. We go live every day for 3 hours. You can talk with T2 and I behind the scenes. We ask and answer questions off the air and have exclusive conversations that you can only find by watching the stream. So make sure you check it out. We have got a lot of things to get into, but I wanted to start with this. First, an apology, because yesterday's show sucked, and I know it sucked. We got done with the show yesterday, and I walked out of this office furious with myself. It was bad.
He did.
Yesterday's show was just bad, and I apologize to you guys for that. I don't have any excuse for it. I don't know. I could not find a groove, could not find a rhythm. I'm not sure exactly what went wrong. But whatever it was, it is on me. I apologize for that. It was just not my best work. And you have my most sincere apologies because I expect better of myself than that. And you guys deserve better than that. So I apologize for yesterday's show. That being said, we will be working to get better as we do every single week. But sometimes you just need a pick-me-up. Sometimes you just need to get somebody in your ear that goes, hey, you got this. Get hype. Let's go. Get loud. Let's make some noise. Let's have a little fun. And I got that yesterday via the head coach of the Welsh soccer team. I'm going to tell you right now that top to bottom, left to right, sports has a lot of speeches that a lot of people think are exceptionally good, and there's a lot of them that aren't that good. I've always kind of made fun of. Although he is a fantastic human being, I've always kind of made fun of Tim Tebow's speech to the Gators, right? I promise nobody's going to work harder than us. Nobody's going to outplay it. And I was like, all right, man. All right, that's cool. I guess.
A little bit cliche.
Yeah, it's just a little bit awkward. Michael Sheen is a Welsh actor. Michael Sheen is a Welsh actor who got an opportunity to talk to the Welsh football team, soccer, before they opened up their most recent game in the Nations League fixtures. And he gave them a speech that has been going viral. And I heard it this morning, and I listened to it, and I was like ready to run through a brick wall. Now, this may be a spoiler to some of you. Some of you may be confused. It turns out, I am not Welsh. I've never been to Wales. I would like to go. From what I understand, it's a beautiful part of the UK. It's a beautiful part of that island. I am not Welsh. I have never been to Wales. I hope one day to go. It looks like it's absolutely beautiful. It looks like it is a beautiful place. That being said, Michael Sheen gave this speech to the Welsh soccer team. By the way, those of you looking for the stream on Facebook, I apologize, it did not connect, but it has been connected now, so it's up now. Michael Sheen talked to the Welsh club, and I heard it, and though I am not Welsh, and though I do not connect with the Welsh people, it got to me. Especially coming off a day yesterday that when I finished the show, I was like, man, I suck. This was bad. It was a bad show. I got to do better. And then I heard this clip from Michael Sheen.
And not even the best version.
Nope, not that one, not that one, not that one. The other one, if you don't mind, please, T2. Sorry, I may have mislabeled them. This clip from Michael Sheen.
Close your eyes and feel the breath on the back of your necks. Because that's every man, woman, and child in this old land standing there with you, at your back. That's the people of Wales, your people. Feel their breath quickening with yours. Hear their blood drumming in your ears, pounding through your heart, bursting in your chest. That's the blood of Wales. That's your blood. Red as the ancient book of dreams. Red as the rising flag of Merthyr. Red as the great wall of Gwalior, because that's what you carry with you, boys. Across 64 years. Across half the span of the world. It's there on your chest. It's there at your back. It's there at your side. Because they'll always say, we're too small, too slow, too weak, too full of fear. But Amarotid, you sons of speed, with that red wall around us, we're still here! Come on, man! Come on!
I need, if any of you are contractors, I need you, because when I heard that last night, I kicked the wall to my house down.
I'm sitting over here like ready to go to war or something, dude.
It's like straight out of Braveheart, man.
or even like Game of Thrones or something.
In your breath. Like, my God.
Don't forget about the Book of Dreams. You know, he talked about the Book of Dreams in that one.
From the Book of Dreams. Unbelievable, man.
Dude, I don't even like sports that much, and I was into that.
Like that.
Yeah, dude, for real.
And here's what I want to contrast that to. Yesterday, the Americans played their final soccer match before they head to Qatar to play in the World Cup and open up on November 21st. And Greg Berhalter sent out the most uninspired, uncreative, unimaginative, boring-ass match I have seen out of U.S. soccer in a very long time. Coming off of a 2-0 loss to Japan, a team that will not get out of its group. They took on Saudi Arabia, a team that will not get out of its group. And it was just boring. It was just bad. It was uninspired. It was unimaginative. It was creative. It was dull. It was bad. And then I hear that speech to the Welsh Football Club from Michael Sheen. Feel the breath on your neck, boys. Also, first off, let's just say this. T2, I am very proud of who I am and where I'm from. there is no way to give a hype speech to a team like that with an American accent.
No.
There's no way
to do it. No way.
And I don't wonder if people in Wales and England and Scotland and Ireland, if they don't hear like, some of the great all-time American speeches, it's a game of inches, boys. I can't do, I can't do it. But I wonder if they hear the Pacino speech and they say the same thing, that just sounded good. But I can't imagine, because that dialect, that accent, I heard that speech. I'm not Welsh. I've never been to Wales. There's not a drop of Welsh blood that I'm aware of inside of my body. And I heard that, and I'm like, damn, they're going to beat us. They are going to beat us in the World Cup, because on the same day that we dropped an absolute fart of a performance onto Saudi Arabia. Oh, and by the way, not even the best Saudi Arabian side, because about half their players were not there. In a day where we could not create opportunities against Saudi Arabia, the Welsh football team got that speech. I'm going to tell you right now, like I said, not Welsh, never played under the Welsh flag, don't have a drop of Welsh blood in me. And even I yesterday was like, for Wales!
Yeah, I was sitting. No, this is the first time I heard it was over here today, and I'm sitting over here like, wow, that's powerful, man.
Do you still have it loaded?
Yeah.
Can you play it again for me? I need it. I want this show to be a banger. I need that clip one more time.
Close your eyes and feel the breath on the back of your necks, because that's every man, woman, and child in this old land standing there with you, at your back. That's the people of Wales, your people. Feel their breath quickening with yours. Hear their blood drumming in your ears, pounding through your heart, bursting in your chest. That's the blood of Wales. That's your blood. Red as the ancient book of dreams. Red as the rising flag of Merthyr. Red as the great wall of Gwalior, because that's what you carry with you, boys. Across 64 years, across half the span of the world, it's there on your chest. It's there at your back. It's there at your side. Because they'll always say, we're too small, too slow, too weak, too full of fear. But Amar O'Heed, you sons of speed, with that red wall around us, we're still here! Come on, Wales! Come on!
I love it.
Somebody give me a flag and a sword.
It was so
right
good,
now.
man. That was so good.
I feel like I will conquer the kingdoms of Europe after hearing that.
I know, dude. I feel
Your men will fear me and your women will want me.
now that was out of Game of Thrones.
Unbelievable.
That was Theon Greyjoy right there.
Unbelievable. That was so, dude, it was perfect. It was perfect. So, I want you to keep that speech in your ears. I want you to keep that speech in your heart, because today is the day. Today is the day that we make greatness, ladies and gentlemen. Let's take a break. When we come back, let's talk some college football, shall we? There is one weakness to this Clemson football team that got showed out on Saturday against Wake. Bad news, I don't see it changing. Good news, not a lot of teams left on the schedule that can exploit it. What is that weakness? I'll tell you what it is coming up. Second, after that, South Carolina saw Dak Joyner have a miracle day in the bowl game against North Carolina last year, and have not seen nor heard very much from him since then. Why is that? I've got some thoughts on that and some NFL talk. Plus, college football expansion is coming, but not in 2024? Question mark? All of that and more coming up. This is the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate Boys.
97.7 FM Bridal. 97.1 FM Upstate.
Play here.
We got pressure throwing in the middle of the field. It's intercepted, overthrew his intended receiver, and heading back the other way for stumbles. Now picks it up, throws deep, and it's caught by Wayne Anderson.
I heard that, Steven. I heard that on the DA show this morning, and I didn't have time to pull it. Let me see if this website works. If I can get it pulled up.
What do you need?
There is a clip of the Appalachian State. I didn't get a chance to pull it. Appalachian State student radio broadcast after Appalachian State won in a walk-off touchdown from a few weeks ago.
Here, I got the link right here. I'm about to type it. All right.
All right, I think I got it here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does that computer have audio over here?
No, I'm gonna send it to you.
Oh, okay, cool. You're just gonna email it?
Yeah.
All right, perfect.
What email do you want it to go to?
Just the Odyssey one.
Okay.
It'd be fine.
Timothy.snow.
Yes, sir.
It's going to link to a tweet. You can just play it straight off of that computer, off the tweet. I've already listened to it. It's clear.
Okay, cool. I got an email from Rob Brown from the Rob Brown Show.
That's me. Feel the breath on your back.
Prescription products require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if a prescription is appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for full details and important safety information. Subscription require refund available for 60 days after purchase.
Guys, want an effective, affordable way to get ED medication 100% online? Whether you're looking for Viagra or Cialis, or generic medications as effective as Viagra, but 90% cheaper, you can find it all through HIMS. HIMS is your go-to for doctor-trusted treatments to help you treat ED. Get ED treatment for as low as $3 per use, and save up to $1,000 per month with generic for Viagra versus the brand.
Holy mother. Yeah, we're playing that next. Isn't that great?
Dude, he might be the best announcer of all time just for that.
So good.
Go to forhims.com/radio to get your first visit.
Oh, man.
forhims.com/radio to get started free. forhims.com/radio.
Are you ready to tackle your banking needs? Comtrust Bank's team of expert
All right, I'm
advisors
keeping
will
that audio
listen to
up.
your teammate. We want to hear your
The
story,
first one,
learn
the
your
whales.
aspirations, and assist you with financial needs, and provide options
Just in case we need it again.
with a wide range of personal, mortgage, and commercial services.
You know that's getting played again today.
Oh, yeah,
You know it's getting played
100%.
again today.
100%.
I play it at the beginning of every segment.
Hey, I'm down with that, man. I love good speeches. It's very dynamic.
Are you tired of being
It's amazing the power of like a speech like that. Like, you know?
And it's so hard to deliver. Like, you can't just...
Yeah,
can't
it's
have one of those.
you gotta have like the right amount of charisma. It's
Yeah.
like literally like tweaking like
And
your
the delivery is perfect. Like, beginning with close your eyes and ending on that high. Like, oh, it was just so perfect.
yeah, dude. Like
If that
I mean,
was in a movie, I'd be like, nobody can give a speech like that.
well, I mean, it starts soft. He gradually rises, and then he'll dive, and then it gradually will rise higher. Then he'll dive, and then all the way up. You know. I watched. You know, not to give Hitler any credit, but if you watch some of his speeches, they're very like dynamic.
Yeah.
And that's a common trait between really good speakers is that they're very dynamic. But that one was like one of the best I've ever heard.
That was fantastic.
It was awesome.
On Audible. From memoirs and true crime to celebrities and sci-fi. Audible is the home of storytelling, audiobooks, podcasts, and originals.
All right, here we go.
At audible.com.
Listen on the Odyssey app. Search the
All right, before I get to the Clemson stuff, I could not find this audio before the show started. And then my man Steven came through in the clutch and found the audio for me. Remember a couple of weeks ago when Appalachian State was playing Troy at home? Very close game. Appy State walked it off on a Hail Mary deflected catch for a walk-in, walk-off touchdown. And it was spectacular. And we played you the audio of the Appalachian State broadcast, the home radio professional broadcast. And you'll remember it if you heard it, because it sounded like something like with like 19 people yelling over each other. Well, now the audio has been dug up of the Appalachian State student broadcast. Now, I have been a student broadcaster before at the University of West Florida. I was in their broadcast and communications department. At that point, I had already been working on the air for a couple of years. And so I had a little step up on some of the other kids in that program and got the opportunity to broadcast some University of West Florida baseball and basketball games. We didn't have a football program at the time, but I got to broadcast our biggest sports, basketball and baseball. And I will tell you that one thing that many students are trying to do is to find their signature phrase, right? Like you think about the great play-by-players of all time, and it's not as popular nowadays, but it used to be that you'd have a popular phrase. John Sterling of the Yankees has one for like every player. An A-bomb from A-Rod, right? Like there's a signature call for every player, and every student broadcaster is looking for one of those. They're all looking for a signature broadcast vibe that they can drop. So when you hear that phrase, you know you're listening to Rob Brown or whoever it might be, right?
That's the way the cookie crumbles.
Yeah. That, you know, if you want to go with the anchor man, stay classy, San Diego.
Yeah.
Like we're all looking for that. We're all looking for that signature call. Well, that signature call was found by Jeffrey Marson. Jeffrey Marson is the student radio broadcaster who calls Appalachian State football games. He is joined by his color man, a guy with a great name of Cody Bear, which is a great name. So Marson and Bear were on the call of the Appalachian State walk-off touchdown call on 90.5 FM WASU. Marson, the 21-year-old sports director for Appy State, had this call.
Takes a snap. Troy sends 4. Bryce rolls left. Going to heave it deep, and it's not going to get there. It's caught by Christian Horn. He's around the outside, and it's scored. He scored. App State wins. Holy mother meatballs! It's a touchdown for App State on a Hail Mary. Takes a snap.
Holy mother meatballs, said Marson. Holy mother meatballs.
Oh, man. Holy mother meatballs.
Tim, let me put you in that production chair for a minute, okay? I want you sitting in that. Now, you obviously do the Burns Radio football games with me.
Yep.
And I think we've hit a point now with me having done this for 15 years, you and I having worked 5 games together so far. I think we've hit a point where you pretty much trust me, right? Like you're not going to have to dump button me when I do a football game, no matter how exciting it gets.
No.
If you're
I
in
am
that
ready,
production
though.
chair,
I am ready, though.
for sure. Like the dump button's right behind Tim. He's got the move down to spin and slap on the fly.
Yep.
If you heard me go, holy mother, are you slapping the dump button right there, or
I'm just ready
Yeah.
at that point. Well, because
Have you spun in the chair? Like, have you turned around when you hear the mother, holy mother, have you spun around with the hand up ready to swipe?
yeah, it's literally like,
Yeah. Yeah. Holy mother meatballs. Marcin did an interview with USA Today, right? He said, I was saying holy something, and I couldn't say multiple four-letter words that are not allowed on the airwaves, so that's what spewed out of me. He was asked where he got that phrase, and he credited a TikTok creator, Mike525457, a New York Giants fan who has used the Holy Mother Meatballs line in multiple jubilant New York Giants videos. Marcin had seen those videos, and as a broadcaster, I can tell you this has happened. He started with holy led to mother, and then he's like, uh-oh, I'm backed into a corner here. And he just went to the first clean thing that came into the noggin, which in this case was mother meatballs.
yeah.
Now, there's a discussion going on, obviously, right now about the Yankees, right? The Yankees win the AL East outright yesterday, but Aaron Judge is still sitting on 60 home runs. 61 would be the AL single season record. He would tie Roger Maris. 62 would win it. And if you do not recognize the accomplishments of the roided out ones like McGuire and Sosa and allegedly Bonds, then 61 would tie the all-time MLB record. 62 would make Aaron Judge the outright all-time single-season home run champion. And there's a discussion about, like, if you're a broadcaster, if you're a play-by-play guy, how do you attack that moment, right? Like, how do you attack that moment? What do you say? Do you let the crowd noise be the breath? Do you talk through it? Do you bring up the road to 61? Do you not say anything at all after the call of the home run and just let it ride? Like, how do you handle that? And I will tell you, for a lot of us, in big moments like, Aaron Judge is getting to 61. Aaron Judge is probably getting to 62. He's got like 7 games left to do it. He's going to get one more than likely. As a broadcaster, you can kind of prepare for that moment, right? Like, I can kind of prepare for Aaron Judge and get an idea of what I'm going to say. But when you broadcast sports, there can be 200 individual moments in a game that deserve some excitement. They deserve some juice. They deserve some adrenaline. And you can't really plan for them, right? Like, every time that Burns snaps the football, I can't plan for what's happening on that play. So if there's a pick six or a strip sack or a scoop and score, I just kind of got to go with the flow. And while you can write down some phrases you want to lean on, like, for instance, my call for Burns is touchdown, Rebels.
Yep.
I don't know where that came from, right? Let me scratch that. Let me fix that. I do kind of know where that came from. And that is one of the backgrounds that I have is I have done ring announcing for boxing and professional wrestling in the past. And there are obviously some tricks that you can lean into, like if you are introducing somebody and their name has a hard R at the beginning, you can Rob, right? You can lean into that and give it a little growl, give it a little juice, a little testosterone. And obviously with the Rebels starting with the R. Now, I did not plan touchdown, Rebels. I wasn't playing. I just kind of did it the first game. And then I'm like, all right, I guess that's what we do now. And I've ridden that the whole rest of the way through. You can't plan Holy Mother Meatballs, right? Nobody has ever written down
that
on
totally
their spreadsheet.
That totally fell right out of his mouth.
Yeah. You can write down in this industry, you can write down a list of phrases you might go to, right? Bermanisms. You might write down some nicknames for a kid. Number 11 for Burns is Armani Weaver. I've switched to calling him Money, right? It's right there in the name. So when he breaks one across the middle, I already know I'm going, throws across the middle. There's Money. Money takes off. He's got one man to... Money just flows naturally.
Right.
Nobody has ever sat down and written down Holy Mother Meatballs as one of their signature catchphrases. That's a dude who walked himself into a corner by saying mother, recognizing he can't drop after it on the air, and just went with alliteration to meatballs right afterwards.
Well, this is my first time, my first year in broadcasting, but I also did a lot of live sound,
Sure.
and I DJ'd, and I did hundreds of weddings, okay? And I'm just sitting here thinking, what if he was doing like a grand introduction at a wedding and said that, like, Holy Mother Meatballs.
I've done a lot of weddings, and weddings are nice. Weddings are nice in that you can script out the wedding, right? Like, like I've done weddings, and I've got my script when it's time to do the introduction to the bridal party. And, you have some
I never scripted mine. I just, I did the same kind of thing, but I did have, I
do 100 of them. The script's in your head at that point.
Well, right. I mean, I had the bride and groom's name written down in front of me, and I also had the bridal party and, whoever else was coming out for the grand introduction. But, as far as, ladies and gentlemen, welcome, good evening and welcome. This is, whatever.
You've got that down.
Yeah.
I've done weddings before where the bride and groom are like, listen, it's a really classy, elegant style reception. So it's like introducing your maid of honor and what's the other one? Best man, matron
Catherine
of
honor,
and Jonathan. And then I did a wedding last summer for our buddy Tim, the GM of the Swamp Rabbits. I performed his wedding. I'm ordained in that sense. So
that's the hockey team, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I did their wedding, and then Tim comes to me and he's like, "Hey, dude, look, we want the introductions of the bridal party and me and my better half to be like just like you would introduce the starting lineup at a football game." I'm like, dope. So I played that, the Chicago Bulls entrance music. Drop that. And then it was like, starting at ring bearer Allison Hightower.
Yeah.
Right? And you get, and that was a lot of fun. But again, like, there's not a lot of room for wiggle there in sports broadcasting when something's happening, especially when you are a hometown broadcaster. Like, I am the voice of the Burns Rebels. I am juiced for what Burns does. And when the bad guys score, it's like they're going to throw across the middle, got a man wide open, touchdown, bad guys, right? When Burns does that, again, I know what I'm going to say. I know the nicknames for certain guys when they score. Money is money, etc. Call him cash, right? Like, I've got all these different things to go with, but you don't know what the play is going to be. Never have I, first off, walking into Holy Mother, right? There's two ways you go from that. It's either Mother Bleeper, which you can't say on the radio, shocking.
Of course.
Or whatever you say after that is going to sound kind of cheesy. It just is. By default, it's going to sound cheesy. And my guy decided to go with the ultimate cheesy call. Play it one more time for me if you don't mind, because I love this kid. I love this kid because he made a first-year broadcaster mistake, and then he walked himself right back out of it.
Takes a snap. Troy sends 4. Bryce rolls left. Going to heave it deep. And it's not going to get there. It's caught by Christian Horn. He's around the outside. And it scores. He scores. App State wins. Holy mother meatballs. It's a touchdown for App State on a Hail Mary. Takes a snap.
I love it. I love it. Again, it's first year radio, man.
And he was so excited too, man.
He was.
He was so excited.
He's a hometown broadcaster. He's an App State kid. Of course he's excited.
It was nice to hear like somebody that's passionate like that, though.
If you're going to call a game, call the game. If you're a hometown broadcaster, be a fan. That's okay, right? Listen, I'm a fan of Burns when they play. I'm going to get into their broadcast. If I was to ever move up to a bigger school or NFL team, and that's the dream for me is, I would love to one day be calling D1 football games somewhere. Get into it. Be a fan. When you get to, this is the NFL on CBS, you're going to be excited both directions. What you can't do is walk yourself into a corner. And by the way, speaking of, he did it twice. He did it twice because at the beginning of the call, and this is one of the other things that you got to be careful about doing as a broadcaster. The first thing he did was when the Hail Mary got launched, you heard him go, it's not going to get there. Like he gave up on the play.
Yeah.
Right? Never give up on that play because you never know. It's football. All it takes is the tip drill, and that's exactly what happened. He walked himself into, it's not going to get there. And there's like a second and a half, almost 2 seconds of silence before he's like, horn gun! Holy mother meatballs!
Yeah.
I love it. I love the juice. I love the energy. That was fantastic. Fantastic audio. All right, let's take a break. Now that we've gotten my favorite 2 sound bites of the day out of the way, let's get to some actual football. Clemson's one weakness. South Carolina's invisible man, Dak Joyner. Where's he at? We'll talk a little bit about that. And we got to start breaking down games from the weekend. As of right now, Clemson and NC State is still slated to take place Saturday evening. I want to ask, are you comfortable after DJ's big day last week against Wake? Are you going to be comfortable if this game turns into a monsoon, courtesy of Hurricane Ian, however you want to say it? Are you going to be comfortable if you're Clemson getting into a slugfest with the Wolfpack? Let's break that down next on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. Holy mother meatballs.
Sports Flash on the Fan Upstate. South Carolina Gamecocks and South Carolina State have moved their game to this Thursday. It'll be a 7 p.m. kickoff. The game being moved due to the remnants of Hurricane Ian. The Gamecocks are 2-2. The Bulldogs 1-2. 7:30 kickoff this Saturday night as number 5 Clemson tangles with number 10 NC State. The Tigers looking to extend a 10-game winning streak. Furman football set for Saturday.
We're still on stream.
At home against Sanford. It's a 2 p.m. scheduled start. Both teams are 3-1. Wofford home against Mercer this Saturday afternoon. 1:30 kickoff in Spartanburg. Both teams are 3-1 overall, both with wins in 2 straight. The Carolina Panthers host Arizona this Sunday afternoon. Carolina coming up last week's 2-2 win over the Saints. The Atlanta Falcons are home against Cleveland on
Oh,
Sunday
man. Holy mother of meatballs.
Holy mother meatballs. What a great ball from that kid. He'll live on in infamy.
And listen anywhere on your phone. I'm Chuck Sanders, and that's your Sports Flash on the Fan Upstate.
From the Ingalls Market Studio, the
Upstate. 97.7 FM Greenville. 97.1 FM Spartanburg.
always live from the Free Odyssey app. CBS Sports Radio. Attention veterans. If you were stationed at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1987, you and your family may be victims of toxic water poisoning. Cancers, birth defects, deadly illnesses have all been linked to the contaminated water. Congress is holding the government accountable. You could be awarded financial compensation for your suffering, but you must act now.
Yeah, man.
Visit sickvets.com for your free case review by True Law. That's sickvets, like veterans.com. Sickvets.com. Visit sickvets.com. Founders knows you must use your best money-saving strategies to reach your full financial potential, including finding the best interest rates on your credit cards. In our current economy, you've got to make every dollar count. That's why Founders offers low balance transfer rates on all their credit cards. Get the most out of your credit card. Visit foundersfcu.com/cc to apply and save today. Terms and conditions apply. Membership qualifications required. Federally insured by NCUA.
Ray Magliotti here for eBay Motors. So you have to drive 300 miles for your cousin's wedding. Okay, so it's his fourth. But you know what they say, fourth time's the charm. Well, here's the problem. Your tires are as bald as I am. But lucky for you, eBay Motors has tires for just about every make and model. Plus wheels, lug nuts, jack stands, and more. 122 million parts. Do they have tissues? Oh, good, because I'm definitely a crier. Get the right parts,
commercials
right
are going
prices.
over
eBay Motors. Let's ride.
Shouldn't be.
Maybe it's just because they're playing loud.
Oh, yeah, because our mics are on. Here.
Oh, that's why.
Was that from Mark?
No.
Okay.
One of the folks on the stream.
I like it loud, I guess. A minute and a half. So you're streaming to Facebook,
Facebook,
Twitter.
YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch.
Does it preload a caption and title and all that?
Yep.
It does?
Streamer does.
Okay.
Yep. You can pop it lets you title the stream and whatever within StreamYard, and then it loads it in as the generated caption on whatever site you're streaming to.
All right. We're about to come back. I'll talk to you about it later.
The Rob Brown Show rolls on. It is the Fan Upstate. Before we get into its impact on sports in the area, because it always feels like a crap spot when you are talking about a natural disaster and its impact on sports, right? As we watch Hurricane Ian, which is now a Category 4 storm, there are some projections that believe it will get to a 5 before it makes landfall. And I grew up in Florida. I have been around hurricanes pretty much my whole life. And the Florida mentality is if it's a 1, don't worry about it. If it's a 2, and maybe board up the bigger windows, but you're all right. If it's a 3, you start to get worried. If it's a 4 or 5, you get the hell up out of Dodge. This thing's a monster, and it is now a 4. It is just to the southwest of Key West, and the models are starting to hone in on this thing hitting around Fort Myers, Florida, south of Tampa, a little bit around halfway between Tampa and Key West on the southern portion of the Florida Peninsula. And when it does, it is going to bring with it 12 to 14 foot storm surge. I've got a friend of mine down in the Tampa Bay area who put up a picture earlier on Facebook of Tampa Bay, which is empty right now. There's no water in the bay. It's just Tampa. There ain't no bay because all of that water is being sucked out towards the storm. The water swells up and raises directly under the hurricane. The hurricane pulls the water upwards. So when it comes ashore, that not even metaphorical, that literal mountain of water that it's pulling up towards it ends up going ashore and being carried above the high mean water line on land. And that's what's going to happen here. The first few miles of inland Florida around Fort Myers are going to be hit hard with a storm surge, and it's not going to be good. It's not going to be good. So we're starting to see some movement of different games around the area in South Florida. And then once that thing comes ashore, because of the angle it is taking right now, the projection is that it will go back out over the Atlantic Ocean somewhere around Jacksonville, St. Augustine. It will get out over the Atlantic for a minute, and then it will turn back inland right around south of Charleston, around the South Carolina-Georgia border, and then effectively make its way through the middle of South Carolina, meaning we will catch the western side of the storm. and could mean that activities in this weekend will be wet. It'll be drenched around here. Fortunately, by that point, the storm should be back to at most a tropical depression by the time it gets into the area, and we do not know what impact it is going to have. So I always kind of feel bad because I do want to talk a little bit about how this is going to impact local teams on and off the field, right? I mean, we're talking about high school football in the area. We gave you the new start times for most of the games yesterday, including the Burns Rebels when they travel to Spartanburg to open up Region 2 play in District 5A, District 2 play in Region 5A. This is going to force them to move Friday's game now to Thursday. It is now going to be a Thursday tailgate at 6:45, kickoff at 7 p.m. We'll have the call live, obviously, here on the air. South Carolina has moved their game against SC State. That game will now be played in the cockpit at 7 o'clock on Thursday as well. As of right now, Clemson football is still slated to take on NC State at nighttime on Saturday evening. Game day is scheduled to be at Clemson on Saturday. I do not know if that is going to take place still. I have not heard nor seen anything getting changed as of right now. I have not seen anything updated as far as that being switched up or that timeline changing. We will find out if there is any move. I suspect if we have gone this far, then we will likely see that game getting played. The Greenville News has told us that they put up an article. Let's see, this is credited at just before 6 o'clock p.m. yesterday, that ESPN is now considering indoor options for their college game day program scheduled for 9 a.m. on campus at Clemson. Julie McKay, senior publicist for college sports at ESPN, told the Greenville News, depending on the weather, we're looking at alternative locations indoor on campus. We're closely monitoring the storm, but are planning for a normal game day experience. Public safety is always our primary concern, so if anything changes, we will be prepared to adjust accordingly. So as of right now, it looks like everything is scheduled to go on as normal, which means that Saturday evening's game between Clemson and NC State will be probably a sloppy, wet, muddy contest. And my question for you Clemson fans is, does that knock down your confidence in the W a little bit, right? Does that take your confidence level down a little bit? And I would say that it probably should not. It probably should not, primarily because we are looking at a Clemson team that can run the ball. Will Shipley has 353 yards on 52 carries. He is averaging 6.8 yards per carry, including 7 touchdowns and a 53-yard reel. DJ Uiagalelei has 41 carries for 169 yards. That is a good for a 4.1 yard per carry average, including a rushing touchdown. Phil Maffa, 27 carries, 104 yards. He's averaging 3.9 per touch, including a touch. Kobe Pace, 18 carries for 55 yards. That is good for a 3.1 yard per carry clip, and 2 touchdowns on the ground to show for it. The only question I'm going to have is, if the ground is tough sledding, if it is muddy, if it is sloppy, if it is gross, if it is gnarly outside, will the Clemson offensive linemen be able to hold their own in this case? Will the Clemson offensive linemen be able to establish a line of scrimmage in the mud that Shipley and Uiagalelei and Maffa and Pace can still see holes, climb to the second level, and then get to the outside? Obviously, the speed advantage is somewhat nullified if the field is a pit of mud, which it might very well be. But the good news is the run game's okay. You got 3 guys with over 18 carries through games that are averaging better than 3.1. You got 2 guys that are averaging better than 4.1. And you got 2 guys that have multiple rushing touchdowns so far on the year. The bad news is, coming off of a game where DJ Uiagalelei had his best passing performance so far, coming off of a game where DJ threw 5 passing touchdowns, coming off of a game where DJ went for 371 and an average of 9 yards per completion on the day, you just started getting the passing momentum built, right? You just started to find a spot where Clemson's passing attack seems to be comfortable, seems to be consistent, seems to have some momentum, some chemistry to it. And now you turn around 7 days later and you got to play old school reined in football with the mud and the muck. You got to turn around and play football in the gross. You got to turn around and play football that's going to that is going to compel you to run the football. Ship is coming off of a 104-yard, 1-touchdown performance at Wake Forest. That's good news. DJ ran for 52 on 14 carries for 3.7 yards per carry in this last one. That's good news. You can utilize DJ Uiagalelei in the run game as well as the pass game here. But I'm curious as to, if you are a Clemson fan, I am curious as to whether or not you are going to be able to do that when the threat of the pass isn't there, right? Can you force NC State to step up to the line, to play you in a run defense versus run offense style game and win it when they don't have to be concerned about Joseph Ngata, when they don't have to be concerned about Jake Brenningstool, about Bo Collins, when they don't have to be concerned about the deep ball because the rain's pretty much going to kill off any chance of that happening? How's that play out? How's that look? I think you'll be okay. But it is going to be a task. And the, I think, 5.5 point spread that you opened up with, I would not be surprised to see that drop a little bit. I would not be surprised to see that number come down just a little bit with people not wanting to play a big score. I would take the under in this game, and I'm looking to see right now if I've gotten a fresh line on this game at this point, now that we know that the weather is going to play a big-time role in it. But I would say that the line's going to get closer, primarily because you are in a situation where you are going to be forced to run the ball primarily. As of right now, Clemson is actually a 6.5 point favorite, and the over-under is set at 40.5. I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now, I'm playing the under in this game. You don't have 2 super high-scoring offenses anyway, although Clemson looked much better last week. But what they were able to do last week with the 5 passing touchdowns off the wrist of DJ is going to be impacted by the weather. But if you're going to play that number, play it now. Play it now. Because if this storm continues to jog over towards the west in the Carolinas, that number's going to come down. All right, let's take a break. We'll come back here in just a minute. We've talked a little bit about Dak Joyner. Where's he been for the Gamecocks? I want to talk about that. Emily Adams of the Greenville News is going to join us coming up here in just a moment to talk a little Gamecock football as well. That's all coming up on the Rob Brown Show. This is the Fan Upstate.
She calling in?
No, we got to call her. In fact, let me take off stream. Hang on, stream. Got to give Timmy a phone number. Be right back. Coming back on stream. Hour numero dos of the Rob Brown Show starts right now. This is the Fan Upstate. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I am your ever so humble yet frequently correct and, dare I say, dashingly good-looking host, Rob Brown. Tim Snow, the Timinator T2, filling in for the great one, Lonzo, out on vacation this week. He will rejoin the show triumphantly on Monday. But now, as we do on Wednesdays at 10 a.m., we welcome in from Columbia, South Carolina. She covers the Gamecocks athletic department for the Greenville News. She is Emily Adams, joining us here on the show. Emily, what's up, homie?
Hey, Rob, how's it going?
Living the dream, buddy. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. You know, we're having a fun week down here, obviously.
Just a little chaos midweek. I mean, listen, you're in this business long enough, Emily. You eventually learn to roll with the punches. How about a little Thursday night football in the cola for you?
Yeah, I'm not mad about it, honestly. I think it'll be a fun time. I think, you know, it's obviously, you know, a little better than playing in a hurricane. So
yes, yes, it is. Yes, it is. Let me ask, what's the feel about the game right now? Because I've seen a lot of people on social media who are kind of upset by this, right? They're like, it feels like they're kind of upset by the fact that the game's being played on Thursday because they feel like the stadium won't be full, the energy and electricity won't be there. I know Beamer in his conference or in his press conference yesterday said that he believes it will. I know a couple of the players have been calling fans to make sure the cockpit is full. What is the attitude on campus moving that game from Saturday to Thursday relatively last minute?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like, is the atmosphere going to be as good as it would have been on a Saturday afternoon? No, probably not. Is it going to be as good as it would have been in a hurricane on a Saturday afternoon? Yeah, probably. You know, I think obviously it's not ideal to have to move it, but I think you're just as likely to get fans on a Thursday night short notice as you would be to, you know, get them in the middle of a monsoon that we're expecting on Friday and Saturday. So, you know, I think it was kind of a lose-lose situation, and, you know, I think it's obviously a smart decision for them to move it up for, you know, basic safety reasons and all that. But I think, you know, people will show up. Corey Rucker said yesterday when we had him for media availability that college students will look for any reason to drink. And, you know, I mean, he's not wrong. And so I would expect to see plenty of students come out on a Thursday night. You know, that's not anything too crazy. Is it going to be a sellout? No. But I think it's still going to be fine in terms of atmosphere, and especially with South Carolina State being so close, you know, their fans will still be able to commute down for the game if they want to and all that. So I don't think it's going to have a dramatic impact, but it definitely will not be the same level of full that it's been the past couple of home games.
Yeah, but it does give you, if nothing else, Emily, it does give you the ability to have those lights flickering, turning off and on, dancing to Sandstorm, etc. So I got to imagine there's still going to be juice in the building.
Yeah, and Beamer said that too. He was like, I'm excited to have another night game, which, I mean, at the end of the day, you know, even if the stadium is half empty, that night game atmosphere is always going to be better than a noon game is. So I think it's going to all kind of even out eventually.
Emily Adams covers the Gamecocks for the Greenville News, joining us here on the Rob Brown Show, as she does every Wednesday at 10 a.m. All right, let's take a quick look back at the game against Charlotte, Emily, because it finally looked like the Gamecock offense kind of found its stride, but at the same time, it was against a Charlotte team that is, with all due respect to the 49ers, not that good. So I think, like, where is the balance point between South Carolina kind of finally showed what they are capable of, especially in the run game, versus it was just against a bad opponent? What's your thoughts on that after seeing that game in person?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a little bit of both. Like, that Charlotte defense is, like, really pretty abysmal. And I mean, that's no disrespect to Charlotte, but you know, you're allowing over 500 yards of offense a game and 45 points a game. That's, you know, pretty close to the bottom in terms of defensive productivity. I think the biggest thing that was encouraging, one was just kind of seeing the running backs be able to get going, even, you know, with the passing game as an option. They just didn't. I think the passing game was there, and they just didn't have to use it. And so they didn't. They kept doing what worked. They just kept attacking that defense on the ground. And I thought that was smart by Marcus Satterfield, who's obviously taken a lot of heat the last couple of weeks. I think that they handled themselves really well, especially offensively, in a game that kind of could have gotten weird if they decided to try and do some of the weird trick play type stuff that they've been going after the last few weeks, which, I love a trick play as much as the next person, but I think the way that they just really kept things simple was a really good sign for me. And then defensively, they obviously had a really bad defensive first half. And Clayton White has been really good at making adjustments after halftime. And I mean, they came out and forced 3 turnovers, I think, just in the third quarter. Like, the way that they were able to adapt to the issues they were having early on, because, as bad as the Charlotte defense is, their offense is pretty solid. Honestly, their quarterback obviously is really strong. And I thought when they came out after halftime, that defense looked incredibly competitive compared to what they looked like against Georgia and what they looked like in even the first half against Charlotte.
Talk to me a little. I'm glad you brought up the halftime adjustments, because I wanted to talk a little bit about that, because Ben Portnoy of The State put up a really interesting stat where he broke down first v second half performances of this team. The Gamecocks in 16 games against FBS competition are being outscored 272 to 175 in the first half, but they are outscoring 201 to 155 in the second half of those same 16 games. Beamer has been having slow starts, but impressive second halves, or I should say more impressive second halves, pretty much the entire career. I've seen a lot of folks attributing that, okay, we don't have great plans going into games, but we're one of the best in terms of adjusting in game, as opposed to like a Nick Saban, who's the opposite, right? Like, he's got you schemed to be defeated before the opening kickoff happens, and they just kind of do what they do the whole time. Do you think that is a correct assessment of the program right now?
Yeah, I don't think that's inaccurate. I mean, just based on how often this is happening, like I don't think you can chalk it up to just, kind of being a fluke thing that they can practice out anymore, because I feel like by now, half or a quarter of the way into year 2, it might have gotten better. And that's not to say, it's obviously it's not great to come out slow consistently. But it's also not a bad thing that they're able to make those adjustments so well, which I think is kind of unusual, to be able to have just such a drastic difference between the first and second half. And I think they'd be really competitive if they were able to just translate some of that into the first half. And I don't know, and I don't think the coaching staff really knows what the issue there is. Like, I don't think they know how to fix it right now. Just because, based on what Beamer has said, they've tried to do different things in practice. They've tried to do different things with, their preparation with the game plan. And it all just kind of comes back to the same result, which is, it's always close at halftime. And then, they either break away or close the gap in the second half. So it's a really odd thing just about this team. And I don't think I know what's wrong with, like, what the issue is. I don't think they know what the issue is. But it's definitely concerning. It's not a problem against your Georgia States and your Charlottes and your South Carolina States. It's a problem against Arkansas, and it's a problem against Kentucky, and it's a problem against Florida and Tennessee. So that's what concerns me with that at this point.
So, we've talked about preseason, Emily, and this was before we were able to get you on as a regular guest, that, I thought 8-4 was the most rose-colored glasses outcome for the season I thought 7-5 was a realistic but unlikely possibility, and I thought 6-6 bowl eligibility was the best chance. So you've got to find 4 more wins on this schedule, and we'll start with this week's against SC State. It is another FCS team that, frankly, South Carolina should just be able to out-athlete this team and win the game. But with the distractions, with the game being moved from Saturday to Thursday, with the changing up of the schedule that the Gamecocks have to go through, etc., what does this game look like for the Gamecocks on a Thursday night?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, I'm not super worried about this game just because South Carolina State, honestly, I think is very similar to Charlotte in a lot of ways. They're giving up similar numbers on defense. They're giving up an average 256 rushing and 217 passing per game. They've allowed more than 40 points in 2 out of 3 games, both games that they've lost. So I think coming off of what they did to that Charlotte defense, I think the run game is poised to have another big night. I think if they have to engage the passing game, I think they're ready and able to do that. So I think, barring some sort of like complete defensive collapse, I'm not too worried about them against South Carolina State. I think it's another good matchup for them. And I think, a home night game, regardless of what the fans look like, is always gonna set them up for success. Emily
Adams from the Greenville News covers the Gamecocks. She joins us every Wednesday at 10 a.m. to talk Gamecock football. All right, so and I agree with you. Basically, all I want to see this weekend is the same thing we saw last weekend, primarily, Emily, with the run game, right? We saw all of a sudden Marshawn Lloyd exploit 15 carries, 169 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 11.3 yards per touch. But Christian Beal-Smith, 9 for 55. Juju McDowell had 9 carries for 23 yards, almost 3 yards per carry average for him. Is it important? Is it primary objective number 1 in your mind, Emily, to prove that was not a fluke and that South Carolina has found a little consistency in the run game?
Yeah, I think it's important for sure. So I would personally like to see a little more balance. I think in every game so far, we've seen them do one thing offensively very well. Against Arkansas, that was Spencer's best game passing. He had, I think, almost 400 yards passing that game. And meanwhile, they had 40 yards rushing. Then you look at last week where, Spencer's around 100, 200 yards passing. And then the run game is going crazy, with 6 rushing touchdowns. I think Spencer only has 2 passing touchdowns on the year so far, which, tells me they're not going to him for those red zone looks. I just, as good as it is to see the run game looking so much better than it did those first couple of games, I think now is the point where they kind of have to bring it together. Like, there needs to be some sort of balance where it's not, we're either going all run game this entire game or we're going all pass game. And I think they haven't found that yet. And I think if they don't find that this week, it's hard to establish that against, a team like Kentucky next week or against a team like Florida 2 weeks after that. So I think this is a really critical point for them in the season as they get ready to enter that really rough backstretch that they have. So I think, as weird as this game's going to be with the short week and everything, I think it's also going to tell us a lot about where they are heading into Kentucky next week.
All right. The last couple of questions for you, Emily. Luke Doty came in 2 of 3, 63 yards, a touch and a pick. And I have already seen, and it has absolutely blown my mind, the South Carolina fans calling for Luke Doty to get his opportunity to go back in as the starter and supplant Spencer Rattler, replace him with a starting lineup, saying, hey, look, he's been around longer. He's got a better grasp of the offense. He's a little bit less rash of a decision maker, etc. Is there any thought at all being given to Luke Doty potentially getting another opportunity to run this offense?
No. I think that's a little bit ridiculous, honestly, that's even out there. I mean, like, Luke Doty is a perfectly fine quarterback. He's a really great kid. He's a good leader on the team. He seems super well liked by everyone in the building. I mean, he just straight up does not have the arm talent that a quarterback like Spencer Rattler has. He doesn't have the same feeling that somebody like Rattler has. And I mean, we've seen Rattler's floor, and it's definitely not great when he's not on. But I don't think we've seen his ceiling yet. And I think we got a taste of it maybe against Arkansas. I thought that's been his best game of the year. And I think he has, I mean, just so much potential. And also, you know, he's been with the team for, 9 months maybe? So, you know, it's something that is unfortunately going to take time, you know, for him to settle in, for him to hit his stride, for him to feel, you know, totally comfortable in this offense. And, you know, I think to pull him now or in a couple of weeks and put Luke in, that would be a huge mistake. And I don't foresee that, but I just don't think that's in the long term a solution or a benefit to this team. I think the best thing they can do is give Spencer as much time as possible to figure things out before, you know, it becomes crunch time.
Emily is spot on. Emily Adams of the Greenville News here on the Rob Brown Show. All right, last one that will turn you loose. Let's prognosticate a little bit here, Emily. We've got 2 wins on the books, assuming a win against SC State at home on Thursday night. You got to find 3 more. You're at Kentucky, back home for a Texas A&M team that lost to Appalachian State, back home for Missouri. Then you're on the road at Vanderbilt, on the road at Florida, back home for Tennessee, and then at Clemson. Where are the 3 wins to be bowl eligible coming from in the rest of that schedule?
Yeah, I mean, naturally, I think Mizzou and Vandy are kind of presumed wins. I think I'm not as worried about Mizzou. I think Vandy is always kind of sneaky. You know, they had that obviously weird game against them last year where they almost lost. So I wouldn't fully, you know, write Vandy in as a win, but I would certainly pencil it. And same with Mizzou. So that gets you to 5, and then they have to steal one somewhere else in there. I think the best chances for that at this point, probably away at Florida. It's tough that game's away. I think they would have it would put them in better position if it was at home. But, you know, I think with how up and down Florida's been, I think that's a possibility. Same thing with Kentucky, kind of, you know, I'm less confident about that than I am about Florida, but I don't think that's a win at Kentucky's out of the question. And then you've got Tennessee at home, which, I mean, Tennessee's tough to predict just because, you know, that offense is so productive and that defense is so sort of underwhelming. So that one is kind of a coin toss for me at this point too. A&M and Clemson, I think those are sort of off the table to me. You know, as weird as A&M's season has been, I think A&M is just, I mean, straight up more talented than South Carolina. And so I would be surprised if that game ends in a win for them. So I think those 3 games, Kentucky, Florida, and Tennessee, are the key ones, and especially Florida and Tennessee back-to-back weeks. A win in one of those, I think, is going to be really, really important for, you know, even getting to that bowl eligibility point.
I think you are spot on. Emily Adams covers the South Carolina Gamecocks for the Greenville News. She joins us on Wednesdays to talk Gamecock sports. Emily, you are the best. We appreciate it.
My pleasure as always. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Of course. We will see you next Wednesday. Thank you very much. That is the great Emily Adams joining us here on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. Let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll get your reactions to that. Texter said, P1 Straight Savage tweeted in. He said, South Carolina fans have no place to bleep about attendance after what they did 2 weeks ago. I really don't have a problem with that take. I really don't. Back after this on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate.
Working on something for you.
Yeah?
We'll see if it works for you. We'll have to see over time, but I'm pretty sure this is going to work. I'm going to custom make your hashtags.
Dope. I love it.
And then we put them in a file, text file or whatever.
Okay.
And just save it. And then, so what I do over there at Charlie, and it's actually helped a lot with his, because he's gotten a big boost in Apple Podcasts and stuff. But anyway, what I do for him is I have universal ones that I use, like trending news, SC news, so on and so forth. And then I'll put at the front of the hashtags, like I'll put like a few of the stuff that we're talking about in that actual segment or that hour, and then I'll just drop the rest of them.
I love it. That's awesome. I appreciate that. Sincerely.
So I'm gonna test it on my page because I copied the link to the live. And
Be right back. Stream, don't go anywhere. Hang on for me.
I was
We are
about
now.
to say, okay.
I'm sitting here talking to you guys. I'm not even on the stream like an idiot. Seems like, are we back? Who are you talking to? I don't know.
All of these would be universal. All right, we're back.
The Rob Brown Show back on your radio. It is the Fan Upstate. Join us on the live stream at facebook.com/thefanupstate, twitter.com/thefanupstate, or at the Fan Upstate on Twitter, and then at the Rob Brown Show on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook, and on Twitch. We put the stream friggin' everywhere, dude. Absolutely everywhere. And do us a favor. If you are in the stream, if you take part in the stream, do us a favor, share it around. If you like the show, if you enjoy the show, tell your friends, tell your fam, tell your followers, and make sure that they have the opportunity to join in and be a part of this little weirdo community that we are building for the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. We'd love to have you guys spread this around and let the world know that you are part of the Rob Brown Armada, ladies and gentlemen. All right. A couple of things to get into on the show. And I wanted to talk a little bit about what has surprisingly been the weakness of the Clemson Tigers so far. And that is defense. And I mean that like as a whole. During the offseason, Clemson was projected to have one of the best defenses in college football. And I didn't have any problem with the projection. There were some people who were calling it a historic defense. I thought that might be a little bit much before we actually saw them take to the field. But, you know, they were going to be very good. However, defensively, they haven't really been the powerhouse that you'd want them to be. Now, I took Wake Forest to be inside of that 6.5-point spread last weekend. They were by half a point, but they were. And part of the reason why was because the defense just has not shown up yet for Clemson. Wake Forest, 447 yards, 6 touchdown passes given just to Sam Hartman last week. They have had a failure up front to generate young pressure. They have given away more pass interference penalties than I am comfortable with. Even Dabo Swinney said, quote, "In totality, we did not play as well as we can," end quote. Then you go back and you look at the game against Furman. And by the way, high five to Furman. They brought everything they could have against Clemson. 384 yards allowed. Louisiana Tech out of CUSA, 317 given up in that one. Over the last 10 seasons, Clemson has finished twice outside of the top 10 in total defense. This loss of Brent Venables has been a bigger loss than I think people projected it to be. I think a lot of folks thought, hey, look, we're bringing up Wes Goodwin. We're bringing up a guy who has been in-house. We're bringing up a guy who has learned under Brent Venables. We are just going to be fine. It's not been there yet. It has not clicked yet. Goodwin was asked about it. He said, quote, "I always say it's never as good and never as bad as it seems." It's not bad. It's just far from good. It's just far from good right now. Goodwin said that when you take away the pass interference calls, when you take away Wake's big plays, 4 of their touchdown passes were for 19 yards or better. He said if you take those out, it was pretty good, which is absolutely correct. Except that was a lot. right? That was a lot. Man, if you take away that point of me getting knocked out, I had a pretty good boxing match. Like, yeah, but that's the important part, right? That's the important part. That's the part that kept you from being great, was the getting KO'd part. And that's what happened. That's what happened. What's interesting is that there's a lot of NFL caliber players on this defense, right? Brian Breesy, KJ Henry, Miles Murphy, Trenton Simpson. These are all NFL caliber guys. These are all guys that have NFL projections. But for whatever reason, they just aren't showing up in certain spots. The Clemson defenders were jokingly in the offseason referring to themselves as the Avengers. Well, Avengers, it's time for you to assemble. Now, you do have to keep in mind that Clemson was missing a good amount of players last night, missing a pair of safeties, missing Malcolm Green, and we don't know if those guys will be back to take on Dave Doran and the Wolfpack. The guys that are playing hard, but playing hard and playing well aren't the same thing. And right now, defensively speaking, they're not playing well. They're just not at this point. When you look at the team defensive statistics, they're pretty pedestrian, to be honest with you. They are pretty pedestrian top to bottom overall. And that's got to get fixed. It's just got to get fixed. Through these 4 games, the Tigers have given up 25 penalties, for 235 yards. That's an average of 58 penalty yards per game. It's not the worst you've ever seen. The problem is that so many of them are coming in big spots. The problem is so many of them are coming in spots where you've got the offenses back against the wall and you're bailing them out. And that's a problem. That's a problem. I would not have thought when you told me at the beginning of this year, if you told me at the beginning of this year, that this team was going to be hampered by their defense, going to be held back by their defense, was going to be giving up plus 300 yards to FCS caliber teams. I would have told you were crazy. I would have told you it's going to be the offense that is going to end up giving problems. It is going to be the offense that is failing to score. It is going to be the offense that is getting too slow of a start. But it's not been. 41 points in the opening game, 35 points in the second game, 48 points in the third game, 51 points in the fourth game. And again, you look statistically and you wouldn't think it's that bad. 10 points surrender to Georgia Tech, 12 to Furman, 20 to La Tech, 45 to Wake. But Wake did what they wanted offensively. Louisiana Tech put up 20. Furman didn't get but 12 points, but they did so with around almost 400 yards of offense, and Georgia Tech just stinks. So, again, if you'd have told me this team was going to be hamstrung by their defense, I'd have called you crazy. I'd have called you a liar. I'd have said you don't know what you're talking about. But that is exactly what's happened. Exactly what's happened. Let's take a break. We'll come back here in just a minute. Where is Dak Joyner? I want to talk about that. Also want to talk about the U.S. soccer. Yesterday, the men's team went up against Saudi Arabia. It was their final opportunity to get some confidence, to get some form before they head to Qatar for that November 21st kickoff of the World Cup. And they did not do any of that. I've got complaints. I'm going to talk about those coming up very shortly. And to start the 11 o'clock hour, if you missed it to open a show, I am going to run you back the best hype speech I have heard in a very long time. All of that and more coming up on the Rob Brown Show. This is the Fan Upstate. Halfway through the show, kids. Everything is more interesting today, Lena. 100%. Tim asked, did you really say schedule instead of schedule? Yeah, I honestly, Tim, I don't know when, where, or why that started. There are some words that I say only because of how much they seem to aggravate people, and schedule is one of them for some reason. I don't know why it bothers people. I'll give you another example. For whatever reason, whenever I say the names of like European countries, the way that the European countries pronounce them, España, Deutschland, etc., like it really sets people off for some reason. And I genuinely don't understand why. But it makes me laugh, so I do it.
That's good enough for now. All right. I got Major League Baseball, that stuff, and college football. All right, let's just start with that.
That'll work.
See what happens. All right. Oh, I need a title. Makeshift title, but it'll work. What? From the Rob Brown show. We should market that for real.
What's that?
Rob Brown from the Rob Brown show. All right, so we'll just hit post, and we'll see how that goes. I'll follow it. I'll let you know how it does, because it'll give me the stats and stuff. I switched my personal account to a content creator account so I can see the stats and test different posting options and stuff. Theoretically, if you could generalize, what you're talking about in the show and just hashtag them all.
Yeah.
You just got to think about what's people going to type in? Like, what are they going to type in the
Right.
search bar? And you know more about sports than I do, so I'm gonna save this document and then you can add to it.
Awesome.
Take away, whatever.
So where has my big dog Dak gone? I saw that question asked a number of times over the past couple of weeks. Where has Dak been? Dakarrion Joyner had an incredible game in the Duke's Mayo Bowl last year. Dak was spectacular, a former quarterback turned receiver, turned back quarterback for that game due to injuries and guys leaving. Dak went 9 of 9 for $160 and a touch. Zeb Nolan got in 3 of 682. Dak ran 10 times for 64 yards in that one as well. Deserves a lot of credit for what he did and a big-time win over North Carolina in that bowl game last year. I agree. But I also have to say, as much as I've enjoyed watching Dak, we do have to acknowledge that was the exception, not the rule, right? That was the exception, not the rule. That was Dak having a very, very special day. Not a dude who's going to do that for you normally. Dak is not a dude that you're going to plug in at quarterback. He's just not. I have seen people in the South Carolina sphere calling for Dak to get another opportunity as the QB. Listen, I like Dak. Dak's great. He, from what I understand, is a really good kid. He's a dude that pours his heart and soul into the program. I love and respect every bit of him for that. But at the end of the day, there is a very, very difficult thing to do in the world of sports. And that difficult thing to do is to recognize when you've got to take the fan hat off. And while I love Dak and I appreciate what Dak did for the team last year, especially in that Duke's Mayo Bowl, but in the different roles that he was asked to play throughout the course of the season, you have to recognize, I think you've seen, and I think Shane Beamer knows this, I think you have seen the ceiling for Dak Joyner, right? And I know it's frustrating when Duke got in last year and he had his Rudy moment. I know it's frustrating when he stepped in last year and was as big time as he was. But I feel like Shane has just gotten to the point where you've seen what he can do. You've seen what he can do. He tried to play hurt back in week 1. He got 8 snaps in the victory against Charlotte this week, and he played 6 against Georgia. Look, there's 2 things happening. Number 1, you've kind of hit the ceiling. Is Dak a better receiver than Brooks, Wells, Brown, Van, or Leggett? No, he's not. He's just not. And there's nothing bad. The dude still has a role on the team, but he's just not in that class. Second off, you got to look at scheme. South Carolina has tried to run the football in pretty much every contest they've been in so far. They've tried. It hasn't worked. It hasn't been successful in every contest that they've been in so far, with the exception really of Charlotte. But they've tried. If you are setting up to run the football, the 5th best receiver on the team is not going to be on the field very often, right? Shane Beamer got asked Sunday night by a reporter in his wrap-up presser for the weekend about Dak Joyner's usage within the program. And he said it's got nothing to do with his ability and everything to do with the scheme. And I think for the Charlotte game specifically, that he's correct. If I'm running the football, I'm obviously not going to have 5 wide receivers on the field. And if I'm not going to have 5 wide receivers on the field, I'm not going to have the 5th best receiver on the field. Joyner's a guy who's a nice stopgap if you have an injury. Joyner's a guy who is a nice stopgap if a Wells or a Brown or a Van is having a hard time at the 2, 3, or 4 spot. He's a nice guy to have if you need a punt returner back there and one of your guys is unavailable, or you don't want to gas one of your top 5 because you're running a lot of spread, right? Then Dak's a great guy to have on the roster. And that's his role. That's his role. Dak's also a good dude. He's a leader in the locker room. Kids on that team respect him. That's a role, and it's an important one. My junior year of high school, I was playing for the Choctachi basketball team, and our team had made the high school Final Four, right? Made the high school Final Four. We got taken to Lakeland, Florida, and I will never forget the moment that we had. So we're on the floor in the Lakeland Civic Center where the Final Four and state championship games were to be held for the FHSAA. I was a junior on the team, and this may shock some of you, but I wasn't very good at basketball. I mean, I liked it. I was good enough to be on the varsity. By the way, a varsity team whose starting center went 7'2", and whose starting lineup averaged 6'6" at high school. We had DJ Hall, who would go on to be, for a long time, the all-time leading wide receiver at Alabama. We had his older brother, Magic, who was a Southern Cal recruit on the basketball floor. We had Doug Porter, who got like 9-11 offers to go play college basketball at a lower level. We were good. So we get out there, and Mark Tiza was our head coach. Coach T sat us down, right? We get down, we get through our practice. We got the Final Four game the next day. We get done with practice, and Coach Tiza sits us down. And he starts talking about everybody on the team and their strengths and weaknesses, right? This is your role. This is your role. And it gets to me, Rob Brown. Rob Brown was the dude that you plugged in late in the game when you needed a foul. Rob, I want you to go out there and I want you to shoulder check 52 into the sidelines. Rob Brown was the guy that you put in there when you wanted to give your starters a breath. Rob Brown was the cat that you pulled in when you were up or down 30 in the final 3 minutes of the game. Game was decided. Rob Brown goes in just to give you a warm body. I sucked. But for the entire season that year, my mom on game day would have the whole team come to our house. And she would cook a big dinner for the whole team. She would, my dad would take the whole team out on the boat. We would all just hang at my house, and we'd set up N64s in every room for the boys to play and loosen up before a game. And because of that, like the team really liked me. I didn't really mesh with them all. I was just kind of this average jack of all trades white dude on this team. But they all really liked me because around me and my family, the team gelled around. So Tiza was sitting at a practice one day, and he's going around and he looks at Rob Brown, who is, let's be real, the worst player on this team. And he goes, and I'm going to tell you guys right now, Rob Brown, and I'll never forget the quote. He goes, Rob Brown is the glue that holds this team together, right? And high school, junior year, Rob Brown, I took that as an insult, right? You can't say anything about my basketball ability, so you call me the glue that holds the team together. And as a junior in high school, I kind of took that personally. But now as a 37-year-old man, I'm like, that was the best compliment that guy could have given me, right? He was basically saying, because this team had some volatility to it. We had a lot of big personality. When you got four guys in your starting five that are going to play D1 ball somewhere, who all want the ball, there's some volatility. And Tiza was saying, look, this is the type of dude that holds the team together, that prevents this team from imploding on itself just by being there and going, hey, man, guys, we got to knock this off. We're better than this. We're above this. Stop fighting each other. Fight the other guy, right? Relax. As a 37-year-old guy, I take that as the utmost compliment. Dak Joyner's in that group. Is Dak Joyner a guy that is going to be listed as a Biletnikoff threat? No. Is he a guy that's going to be listed as an all-SEC wide receiver? No. Is he a guy that's going to get more than 6, 8, 10 snaps in a game? No. But he is the type of guy that you need on that team. He is the type of guy that puts his heart and soul into that team. He is the type of dude that holds the team together. Why aren't you seeing Dak Joyner? He's not a great player. He's a good player. He's a utilitarian player. He can do a little bit of everything. But he's not really exceptional at any one thing. What you have him there for is a guy that really kind of forces the team to be together. And that's his most powerful contribution, and it might be his most important contribution. All right, coming up in the next hour of the Rob Brown Show. If you missed the opener of the show today, and even if you didn't, stick around, we are going to play you the audio of the best hype-up speech you have heard in a very long time. Pacino's Game of Inches speech goes behind this. Tebow's tear-filled speech goes behind this. This speech is incredible, and we're going to play that for you when we come back. Plus, I might give you that Appy State home radio call again, and some pretty harsh criticism of the U.S. men's national football team as they prepare for the 2022 World Cup from other countries' players, and it's well-deserved. All of that and more coming up in the next hour of the Rob Brown Show. Hey, did I mention the Atlanta Braves are tied for the NL East now? Did I mention the Bravos are now tied for the NL East with 7 to play? I'll talk to you about that and more on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. Our stream hit the restroom. Be right back. Don't go nowhere. Who cares if there's a couple extra minutes in the segment, right? I mean, it's not like I've ever run out of words. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. The Rob Brown Show's on your radio. This is the Fan Upstate. Glad to have you for the third, the final, the best, the money hour of the show. Rob Brown and the Timinator, Tim Snow, T2, with you here on the radio broadcast today.
Hello, everyone.
It has been a good week in sports. But I want to bat lead off, Tim Snow, with that audio that we played back in the first hour. Mainly because I love it as much as I do. Michael Sheen is a Welsh actor, a thespian, and I say that because the dude talks like one. And ordinarily, despite what many of you might believe to the contrary, I don't fall very often for over dramatic stuff, right? Like so I started watching last night, and I'm going to come to that audio in a second. I started watching last night, finally, way behind the times, the documentary on Netflix about Manti Te'o. If you don't remember the Manti Te'o story, you've been under a rock. But Manti Te'o, a NFL player from Notre Dame. Manti Te'o got catfished, right? There was a guy in Hawaii who catfished Manti Te'o, a trans woman who catfished Manti Te'o, and basically convinced Manti Te'o that there was this woman that he got romantically invested in without ever meeting her. And it's an absolutely ludicrous story. I watched it with the lady friend last night. And at one point, like, I paused it and I looked at her and she's like, this is wild, right? So this trans woman.
She's a heel.
Yeah, 100%. Created this fictional character out of a need for attention, affirmation. I'm not entirely sure. To be honest, I'm not sure anybody is. But created this fake profile on Facebook where they could portray themselves as a female. Said they were always trans, and because of the community they were grown up in, which was a very conservative religious community, did not feel that they could be themselves, could not be who they were on the inside. So she created this Facebook profile of a woman to effectively virtually live her life online as a woman. Well, because they came from the same community as Manti Te'o, they got linked up on Facebook, and this person ultimately ended up getting into a fake relationship with Manti Te'o. Of course, Manti being, with all due respect, because the guy was a vicious linebacker, from what I heard his speech in the interview, a relatively naive person. And I understand that, right? Like, he talks about being from the Polynesian, the Samoan culture, that there were three pillars: family, faith, and football. And you really could hear that because his whole life centered around football. And I got the impression, correct or incorrect, I got the impression that Manti Te'o didn't really have, and you'll pardon this phrase because I love the phrase normal as a setting on household appliances only. There is no normal in life, right? But you could tell that Manti, or at least I could tell that Manti Te'o didn't really have normal social interactions, right? The guy was always going to be, from his freshman year of high school, he was always going to be a football megastar. And as somebody who has been around football megastars, they get treated differently, all right? You just do. When you're in high school and you're really good at football, the teachers love you.
Yep.
The girls love you. The parents love you. Everybody loves you when you're a football superstar. I've seen it play out, right? Like, I saw kids in high school who were absolute boatheads of people, but they were the most popular kids in school. Why? because they pick six the district rivals last week. You get treated differently. And I get the impression that to some degree that was kind of Manti Te'o's upbringing. He was so damn good at football that he never really had normal upbringing, normal social interactions. And so when he got involved and invested in this fake Facebook relationship that he thought was real, despite the fact that there was a forest of red flags to wade through, Manti didn't really see those red flags. Why? Because the only way, and anybody who's dated before will tell you that the only way to learn that a red flag is a red flag and not that, oh, everybody around me just wants me to be single and unhappy, is you got to get punched in the face by a couple of red flags, right?
Yeah.
The first time that you go home, or hell, I'll make it personal. The first time that you take a 4-hour road trip to go see your long distance girlfriend and you walk in on her sleeping with another dude, right? As has happened to me. The first time that happens to you, now all of a sudden all the red flags that went up that should have led you to believe, oh, she's cheating on me, now the red flags are visible. You got to walk past them to see them. So it doesn't shock me that Manti Te'o was going through all this and didn't really see all the red flags because he had never had to deal with them in the past. So by the time, and I've only watched the first episode. They're like 40-minute long episodes. I've only watched the first episode. So I basically got to the point where he's gone through his senior season. His grandmother passed away. And then he got a call later on that the fake girlfriend also died of leukemia. And I remember this playing out at the time. Manti Te'o was like dedicating his senior season to his grandmother and to his dead girlfriend who did not exist, had a hell of a senior season. And then the individual running the fake account of Lene Kikua was the name of the fake girlfriend. For whatever reason, and again, I get it. As somebody who had to hide who they were in their own family and community, to have that online validation, especially to get that online validation from somebody with the visibility of Manti Te'o, like, you will do crazy things for validation. And I think all of us have probably known somebody who was in that camp, right? More often than not, like kids who act up at school and create problems at school usually aren't visible or respected at home. And so that the only way that they're going to get attention is to do things that draw attention to themselves. And if they don't have football talent, if they're not an excellent student, if they don't have some positive trait that brings attention to their life, they will exaggerate the negative traits to bring attention to their lives. It gets them attention, and at the end of the day, attention and validity is the goal. I was a teacher for a few years. I was going to be a high school teacher before I realized that kids suck as a whole, and I didn't want to do it anymore.
I couldn't see you as a teacher. No.
I'd have been a great coach, terrible teacher.
You would have been a good coach, terrible teacher. You're too loud to be a teacher.
No, I would have been an okay teacher if you would have only given me the kids who really wanted to be in school, right? But as soon as you give me problem kids, I'm like, nope, I don't have the patience for this.
Yeah.
Which is why teachers all deserve like 1,000% raises, and I'll take that to my deathbed. Anyway.
Me too. My wife's a teacher.
They deserve the world. So I recognize, and I got told by a teacher one day, he's like, you got to realize that the kids who act up, the kids that create this issue, for it, not all, but a lot of them, they don't get attention anywhere else. And they don't know how to get attention, and the only way they know to get attention is to act up. And that's effectively what happened here. This woman was getting attention. This woman was getting attention from one of the most visible athletes in America at the time, in Manti Te'o, and that attention validated her existence, so she just kept coming back for more. She could have left the fake girlfriend dead after a car accident and leukemia that she made up, And this probably never becomes a story, right? But because she brought the dead girlfriend back and told Manti, I got in trouble with some bad people and I had to go underground and faking my death was the only way to do it, it created this illusion that brought down her and brought down Manti Te'o to a very negative perspective. And it created a lot of problems for Manti. The problem, the point of all of this is I'm watching this play out. There are like parts of it I understand. Like I understand her need for validation and respect and to be noticed in ways that she never would have been respected or noticed within her own community, with her own family, had she come out as a trans person. But on the flip side, you're like, right, but I lose my respect for that need for validity when you start hurting other people to get it, right? Like that's where I lose the respect. And in listening to both of them, both her and Manti Te'o talk about this, I'm like, damn, you guys are dramatic. You guys are dramatic, right? Like how much of this would go away if you just weren't so overly dramatic about it? Like at one point, Manti Te'o, and I'm going to give him a little bit of leeway here because, again, I've been around high-profile athletes. They are not treated normally, and therefore they don't have the same social cues, the ability to pick up on social cues that you and I do who go through a normal life.
So are you saying like they're treated like maybe something like royalty would be treated, and that they don't really know how to
they don't
get along in society?
Correct. It's every movie ever where the prince or princess decides they're going to put on regular clothing and go down amongst the rank and file, right?
Right.
It's where the prince puts on a pauper's outfit and goes down to the local shop and tries to interact with the peasants, and he has no idea how to interact with them.
And they usually find themselves in trouble,
Correct, because they have no social cues. That's Manti Te'o. That's top-tier professional athletes. You guys wonder all the time, why don't these athletes just stop getting in trouble? Because of them, they don't know they're getting in trouble. They don't know what getting in trouble is. They've never been in trouble.
Yeah, they usually have somebody there being like, don't do that.
Correct. I watched a top-tier professional athlete at my high school get literally caught smoking the reefer on a school trip. And you know what happened to that kid?
What happened?
Nothing. Why? Because the team he played on would have lost their next rivalry game had he not played. So they made a bunch of the parents made a bunch of excuses and let him off the hook to play. If I would have got caught smoking reefer in my hotel room, I'd have been kicked off the damn team.
Yep.
But he caught I think he had to do 1 day detention, which was like an hour after school detention, right?
Wow.
Like, cool. So
not like ISS or anything.
I get why Manti Te'o maybe doesn't have the or at the time wouldn't have had the regular social interaction that we had. But I'm listening to Manti talk, and he tells a story about how this fake girlfriend was in a car accident and was unconscious in a coma and laying in the hospital bed in his mind. And he says that her brother called me, which was also the person faking being the brother. Brother calls me and puts the phone next to her bed, and I'm like, hey, I'm here, babe. Like, I'm here for you. And I heard the breathing go from to, and the nurse came over, and the nurse was like, this is the most reaction we've ever got from this person. And, you know, to just know that I had this impact where a person in a medically induced coma started reacting just to my voice. I'm like, Manti, come on, man. Like, you gotta know better, my guy. Is super dramatic, right? The point of that very long spiel was that Rob Brown got over the overly dramatic a number of years ago, right? Like, I've seen a lot of actors give hype up speeches, and you're just like, all right, dude. Like,
Daenerys Targaryen.
All right, dude. Like, you're being a bit dramatic. But then I heard this. Then I heard Michael Sheen, a Welsh actor, giving a pump-up speech to the Welsh National Football Club as they got ready for their next run through the Nations League, getting prepped for the World Cup. Of course, the World Cup, the Welsh are in the same group as the Americans. And I am now afraid of the Welsh, both because we suck and this speech.
Close your eyes and feel the breath on the back of your necks. Because that's every man, woman, and child in this old land standing there with you, at your back. That's the people of Wales, your people. Feel their breath quickening with yours. Hear their blood drumming in your ears, pounding through your heart, bursting in your chest. That's the blood of Wales. That's your blood. Red as the ancient book of dreams. Red as the rising flag of Merthyr. Red as the great wall of Gwalior, because that's what you carry with you, boys. Across 64 years. Across half the span of the world. It's there on your chest. It's there at your back. It's there at your side. Because they'll always say, we're too small, too slow, too weak, too full of fear. But Amarokid, you sons of speed, with that red wall around us, we're still here! Come on, Red! Come on!
So, I got shades of Gerard Butler
I know.
portraying Leonidas in 300.
I was
from
about
that.
to say that, yeah. Yeah, I was about to say that he must have watched 300 before, he made that speech.
It's so freaking good.
It really is. It really is.
It's so...
And Gerard Butler did awesome in that movie, and it reminded me of that. 100%.
Despite the... And I know it's meant to be a fiction fantasy film. Despite the overwhelming historical inaccuracies in the movie 300...
Yeah.
It's just a badass movie.
It really is. It's probably one of my favorite movies.
It's just a badass movie. And the speech that Gerard Butler delivers to the 300 Spartans before Xerxes comes marching up the goat path with, "Tonight we dine in hell." I was like, whoa, let's go. This was a real life version of that, right? Like,
yeah.
And this is gonna bleed over into the next segment, because I want to talk a little bit about Team USA Soccer, right? They didn't have a drop of what I got out of that speech from that guy. And it's an actor, right? Like, especially anytime they bring an actor on screen for anything, there's always this thought in the back of my lizard brain that's like, dude, don't forget that this guy's entire job, this girl's entire job, is to make you believe that they are someone that they are not, right? So anytime I see actors, and this is probably a bad thought to have, but anytime I see like actors that do one of those sad Sarah McLachlan commercials, and they're like, "Won't you please help the starving children?" I'm like, what are you doing? Right? Like, don't, what are you doing to help? You
with the sad piano in the back.
You have hundreds of millions of dollars. What are you doing? I make like I make what you make on 1 minute of filming a movie is my yearly salary. And you're asking me for help. Like, I always have to remind myself, this person gets paid to make you believe that they are somebody that they aren't. And so because of that, most of the time, whenever an actor gives a speech like this, it comes across as disingenuous, right? Except for a few who that's who they are. Matthew McConaughey, when he does stuff with Texas football, well, that's just Matthew McConaughey. All right. Like, that's just that guy. This dude's speech halfway through, I was like, let's go!
Right?
I was hyped. Like, I need a contractor because I kicked down the wall of my own house after this. I was ready to like I needed a sword and a flag.
Yeah, dude, I was ready for some trouble. I just needed some trouble, like
That
right
guy's
in front
great.
of me.
That guy is great. And I wish there was a drop of that. A drop of that in the American football team. And we'll talk about that next on the Rob Brown Show. Rob, Tim, and you on the Fan Upstate.
Okay, I got 5. Plus your, how much do you got? Let's see. 9.
Hashtags?
No, I got 5 viewers on mine.
Oh, I like it.
You got 9
Dope.
on yours. So 9, 10, that's 13. So, and the more we do it, the more people will come in. I'll be right back.
Yes, indeed. All right, we back. Can we get you to do the speech to the Triumph before? The problem with that, Skrilla, is that all the Triumph guys know me, and I don't think they would take me seriously enough for me to get into a speech like that. I would do it, but I don't think they'd take me seriously enough to do it. I'm going to go to that other audio, the Alejandro audio next.
All right, I got it ready.
So I gave you that speech from Michael Sheen, which had me about ready to run through a brick wall. I'm not Welsh. I've never been to Wales. I don't have a drop of Welsh blood in my body, but that was incredible. And I wish the U.S. men's national team had some of that dog in them, because right now they just don't. They just don't. 2-0 defeat to Japan early in the week. Yesterday afternoon, an uninspired, unimaginative, non-creative draw at 0-0 against the Saudis. A draw which saw us get 2 collective shots on goal. Neither of them particularly good efforts. It was, I'm sad to say, embarrassing. That's a mid-level at best Saudi team. That's the type of team. I'm not saying you gotta win every game in that sense, right? That's a big ask. I'm not saying you gotta win every game. I am saying that I need a better performance than that. That was just embarrassing. From top to bottom, it was embarrassing. That game ended yesterday. I watched that match yesterday at the house, and I'm glad I didn't go out, right? There were a group of guys that were meeting out, and I was thinking, you know what? What's a 2 o'clock game on the big screen out in the sun with a couple of draft beers after work, right? Take an hour, knock an hour off the regular schedule, go watch some football outside in the sun. And I decided, you know what? I got work to do. I got to get stuff done with the Burns game moving to Thursday and South Carolina moving to Thursday and the potential for the NFL to be like, there's a lot I got to get my head wrapped around before the weekend. So I'll put in the work. I'll just watch it in the bro cave at home. So I did. And I'm glad I did. Because when that game ended, it was just, all right. All right. Is what it is, right? Is what it is. We suck. I cannot think of a team that I went from so high on to so down on so quickly like I have the U.S. men's national team as they get set up and prepped to head to Qatar for the World Cup. Like a month ago, I was absolutely freaking jacked about this World Cup run. I'm like, this team is young. This team is creative. This team is inspired. This team is going to give us the best chance that we have had in a long time to actually do something in the World Cup. And now I'm like, dude, we're 3 and done. We're 3 and done. I don't see a way out of this for us at this point. I don't see a way for us to get out of the group. We're going to lose to England on Black Friday. We're going to lose to Wales in the opening draw. Hell, we might lose to Iran when it's all said and done. That's how bad we look right now. It's just embarrassing. And I saw a meme that got sent out by somebody I was following on Twitter, and I'll look to see if I can find it because I love to give them the credit. But it basically pointed out all of the accomplishments of the U.S. If I recall off the top of my head correctly, and I probably won't, but through the last 9 games, we have won 1 of them. We have scored, I believe, twice in the win and not a goal in the rest of them. It's just embarrassingly bad. And you, at this point, you hate to put it all on one thing. You hate to put it all on, oh, well, it's bad coaching or it's this one guy, right? Like, I know a lot of us were expecting that Ricardo Pepi was going to step up and be the true number 9 for this team when the World Cup got here because he was on a heater. Remember, they brought him in, and when he showed up in the red, white, and blue, the guy was absolutely freaking spectacular. But here's the thing. You could have freaking Lionel Messi playing that spot. You could plug Cristiano Ronaldo into that spot as of right now, and it wouldn't matter because we've got no creativity to get the ball into the box. We've got no inspiration, no passion to play the ball forward and make something happen. Here's a stat. We have played 720 regular minutes of soccer. That is 8 matches. We have scored 2 goals in that stretch. That is an average of a goal every 6 hours of play. We have conceded 9 goals. But hey, at least Greg's got the right guys for his system. Right, U.S. Soccer Federation? We might be giving away 4.5 goals to every one we score. We might be scoring 1 goal a day. But at least we're playing the system, right? At least we're playing the system. The good news is that England and Wales are struggling in the Nations League right now. They're both in our group. Iran, on the other hand, is actually playing really good football right now, right? So there's that going for us. But I have no faith that we're getting out of the group at this point. Remember the run that the Americans went on, 3 World Cups ago? The run we went on that ended with that last-second goal against Ghana when Tim Howard got the ball ahead to Landon Donovan and Clint Dempsey, and they netted the winner that moved us on. Remember that? And remember how we actually had some motivation, some hype around U.S. soccer after that for a little while because, hey, we only support winners as a country. Remember that? That goodwill should happen with this team. This team's got too much talent to be this bad. And I knew we were in trouble. I knew we were in trouble when Christian Pulisic, who maybe he's not our best player, but he certainly is our most recognizable player. When Christian Pulisic got subbed off and he threw the armband at Adams, who was replacing him, and he walked over and he high-fived and he dapped up the entire team and he flat out, straight up, entirely, top to bottom, ignored Greg Berhalter. Just ignored him. Had nothing for him. That's the moment I was like, all right, this team's got 0 inspiration, 0 creativity, 0 ingenuity. This team has got nothing. They've got nothing for England. They've got nothing for Wales. And at this point, I'm all but convinced they're going to get bumped out of the group stage at the earliest. We are going to be 3 and done. And it's truly, genuinely, ultimately pathetic because there's too much stocked talent on this team to be this bad. There's just too much stock talent to be this bad. It's frankly embarrassing. And I'm over it. I really am. I'm to the point that all the folks that have been busting up Greg Berhalter, right? I'm to the point that I'm kind of joining that bandwagon. Greg Berhalter has been fired from multiple clubs around the world. Why? because the clubs that he has played, he insists on having his system as the most important aspect of what is happening on the pitch. And it has repeatedly created teams that cannot score goals. And while I'm fine to have a stubborn defensive team, while I think it's great to have a stubborn defensive team, we have created a world for U.S. soccer where we might give up no goals. We might give up 1 goal, maybe 2. But we can't score. Because every time we get the ball into the attacking third, we just don't know what the hell to do. And I'm over it. I really am. I'm at the point where I believe today we won't win a game in Qatar. We might be able to get a point. We're not losing to, or we're not beating England. We're not going to beat Wales. Not after that speech we just heard. And at this point, maybe we go, maybe we draw even with Iran. Maybe. But this was the most frustrating window of international football that we have watched in a while. And there have been some maddeningly frustrating efforts. Berhalter came off the pitch and talked to Jenny Taft after that draw, after that 0-0 draw. And he said, we're not as confident as I would like. We are still very tentative, still in need for improvement. It's nervy times. People are worried about making the roster. Dude, Greg, nobody's worried about making the roster, right? Christian Pulisic is not worried about making the roster. Weston McKennie is not worried about making the roster. The only thing that they are worried about is why the hell you keep insisting that we play this system, a system that is garbage, right? Remember our last coach, Jurgen Klinsmann, who said the biggest problem for U.S. soccer was that everybody was in MLS. Everybody's in MLS playing lower tier competition. They're not sharpening their skill set against the best in the world. Well, guess what? Now they are. McKinney and Pulisic and Reyna, all these guys are playing abroad. They're playing the best teams in the world. The best teams in the world. And what are we showing for it? What are we showing for it? The team is strong. Yes, we could use some better help from the 9 position. We could use some better help at the attacking point. But if you are getting guys like Ricardo Pepi, he touched the ball 13 times in that game. Most of them were nowhere near the goal. We aren't creating anything because you are using the same system over and over and over. You were fired in Sweden for not having attacking play. You have coached 5 seasons in the MLS. 1 time did you finish in 5th or better in the final rankings. Never once were you a playoff coach. You have 0 trophies as a manager outside of the CONCACAF Nations League, which, cool, great win, knocked off Canada and Mexico to win it. But also that's a tournament that teams are like, all right, cool, let's go play in this tournament, I guess. You never played international football. The best thing on the international level you have accomplished is that you were the brother of the U.S. Soccer CFO who hired you. That's it. That's the list. That's what you've accomplished. Eric Winalda said it best. At the international level, your job is not to teach a system. At the international level, your job is to select the best players to help you win and then build the system around them to win. We are too good to be this bad. And my excitement, my optimism for the World Cup went from really high to absolutely tanked in a matter of 3 matches. That's how bad this is. That's how bad this is. Let's take a break. We'll come back and we will wrap up this radio broadcast. T2, the Timinator, Tim Snow on the ones and twos. I am Rob Brown. You're listening to The Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate.
Doing Twitter?
Yep. We'll come back with probably a couple of minutes to talk, and then we'll flip over to that.
Sounds Gucci.
I'll be right back. Stream. Got to hit the restroom. Don't go anywhere. All right, we're back. Oh, man. So how's everybody? No, it's not, Skrilla. It is no joke at all. I hate it. I really do. This thing's going to be a monster when it comes aboard.
Why does it do that?
All right, hitting the end of this radio broadcast. If you'd like to be a part of it, 844-FAN-PHONE, 844-FAN-PHONE. Let's do this. I got a pair of tickets to give away for Furman football. Game is, as of right now, slated for this Saturday against Samford. Waiting to see if any contingency plans come to place due to the weather. We will certainly let you know as quickly as we can. But either way, ladies and gentlemen, I've got a pair of tickets for you. And if your name enters this, if you win this thing, your name will enter the drawing for a VIP experience at a Furman game that will include being escorted around the game by Mark Ryan, myself, maybe. We'll see. But you will get to go out onto the field to get your pictures made out on Furman Field. Dan Scott has been very gracious in offering us a tour of the press box, so you'll get to see where the radio magic gets made every week. Caller number 3 right now is going to win a pair of tickets to Furman v. Samford coming up this Saturday. If contingency plans are made into effect due to the weather, we will obviously let you know how that's going to change it. But for right now, the game is scheduled. Caller number 3 right now is going to win a pair of tickets, and your name is going to be entered into the grand prize drawing for that VIP experience. Calling it the number is 844-326-3663. 844-326-3663. Caller number 3 right now is going to win those tickets and get your name entered into the drawing for that grand VIP prize coming up this Saturday or whenever the next contingency plan kicks into place. 844-FAN-PHONE, 844-326-3663 is the number. If you want to win those tickets, make that call right now. 844-326-3663. Before we get out of here for the day, a couple more things I wanted to throw in. Yesterday, the college football playoffs. The college football playoffs committee, the playoff management committee, met. They were discussing about the expansion to 12 teams, but the discussion was whether or not we would expand those 12 teams as early as 2024. Well, they didn't go anywhere. Bill Hancock, the CFP executive director, told a small group of reporters following the meeting that lasted at Big Ten HQ, quote, "We won't wrap up this week. It's never been done before, obviously, and so anytime you have new ground to break, it takes a lot of conversations to make sure you're not missing any details," end quote. Now, that's not to say it won't be done this week. The 10 FBS commissioners and Jack Swarbrick of Notre Dame will meet again for 2 hours today, but it is more than likely that if a decision about earlier than expected expansion will take place, that will take place on an October 20th meeting in Dallas. Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormack said the group will have multiple video conferences between now and that mid to late October expected meeting. Hancock said the commissioners continued to discuss the possibility of moving the entire season up a week to accommodate the expanded playoff field, but there are still questions about the feasibility of implementing such a, quote, sweeping change, end quote, so quickly. An earlier start would move the conference championship games to Thanksgiving weekend. So instead of having rivalry weekend on the day after Black Friday, Instead, we would have our conference championships taking place on that weekend. Hancock said, quote, I think most people view that as a future item, a long-term item. I don't want to foreclose anything, but that's my answer, end quote. Hancock said the commissioners are continuing to discuss revenue shares and ticketing allocations for first-round games, and they need to see if the hotels and convention centers in the host cities can accommodate an expanded field earlier. The CFP already announced Atlanta will host the national championship game in 25, followed by Miami in 26. Hancock went on to say that conversations with Atlanta have, quote, been healthy, end quote, but that Atlanta has, quote, some work to do because of other business in the community, end quote. He said, quote, it's harder, it will be more difficult because it happens first, end quote. The other big discussion is how the New Year's Six Bowls will handle the rotation, as the 4 quarterfinal games and 2 semifinal games would be played in those bowls. They would then have to come to terms with a TV contract for the first round games. As of right now, ESPN would retain control through existing bowl and playoff deals of the quarterfinal, semis, and title game until the current contract expires following the 2025 season. And that's where we're at right now. Ladies and gentlemen, let's wrap up this show the way that we try to do at all times, with a little Twitter trending topics.
And now, the Rob Brown Show presents Twitter Trending Topics.
All right. Coming in at number 1 is, of course, hashtag Florida.
Yeah, we're keeping an eye on Hurricane Ian as it continues to steam towards, it's going to hit somewhere along the coastline between Key West and Tampa. The concerning thing here, obviously the winds are big time as of right now, because you are in a spot where the winds are at 155 mile an hour sustained, but the storm surge is what will cause a lot of the damage. The storm surge expected to be in the neighborhood of 12 to 14 feet. That is 12 to 14 feet above the mean average line, meaning that when you go visit Tampa in the middle of the day and you see Tampa Bay, 12 feet taller than that. That's insane. So we will be keeping a very close eye on this storm, as it is going to be a monster when it comes ashore at Florida. And then obviously it will take it'll take the nation coming together to help the people out down there.
All right. Number 2, we got, this is actually my favorite, hashtag Wednesday Thought.
Wednesday Thought. Give me a good Wednesday Thought. You got to have one.
Good Wednesday Thought is, so it says here, people share.
Teacher's got dreads. He's got deep thoughts.
People share tips, quotes, and stories to motivate their Wednesday. So, I don't know. What's a good Wednesday thought? Let's see. Happy hump day.
That'll work. Good enough. Just remember, we're halfway to the next weekend of college. And it's not even true, because we got games tomorrow night. Burns v. Spartanburg at Spartanburg tomorrow night. Pregame at 6:45. Kickoff at 7 for tomorrow's game. We'll have an abbreviated game tomorrow, or abbreviated pregame tomorrow, followed by a 7 o'clock kick to that game. It'll kick off at the same time as South Carolina v. SC State. They moved that one due to the hurricane. All of the other college games in the area, as of right now, Furman, Clemson, etc., are all still scheduled to be kicked off on Saturday at their normal time.
All right, here's another good one. It is hashtag National Sons Day 2022.
National Sundays. Well,
Sons Day.
Sons Day.
And shout out to my son, Skylar. I love you, man.
Skylar, what's up, big fella? I would like to wish a most happy of National Sons Day to my mom, who produced one outstanding son and then my brother. So happy National Sons Day to my mom.
That's awesome. All right. Let's see. We got, some of these are political. I'm trying to skip those. Hashtag Lizzo.
Yo, Lizzo is a real one.
Yeah.
Lizzo is a real one. I'm gonna tell you right now, There are a lot of folks out there that have issues being comfortable in their own proverbial skin, in their own literal skin. Get you about an hour and a half of Lizzo music and tell me you don't come out of that feeling better about your life.
There's a hashtag Waffle House right now.
Yeah, no, that's actually a serious one. Here's why. I got about a minute left. Waffle House in the South, and especially in communities, like in Florida, Alabama, where hurricanes and flooding and tornadoes happen, Waffle House has an emergency contingency plan that has made them almost always the last business to close before a hurricane and the first to reopen after it. Basically, the rule of thumb in Florida is this. If the Waffle House closes, run. That's the rule of thumb, because if Waffle House shuts it down, that means that their emergency contingency plan has kicked into place, and that means they think it is going to be bad. And the Waffle Houses around that area between Tampa and South Florida have started to close. And when the Waffle Houses close, it sounds like a joke, but it's really not. When the Waffle Houses close, it's time to GTFO. And that's what's happening right now.
All right. You want to do one more?
Yeah, we got time for one more.
All right, let's do hashtag Happy Hump. Or we've already done that.
Hump Day.
Hump Day. Hashtag
oh, come on, there's gotta be one more good
Bayshore Boulevard Monster Hunter video games. I don't even know what that is.
I got nothing. So we'll call it right there, ladies and gentlemen. That's it for our Wednesday show. Jim Rum's got you up next in the Jungle. Mark Ryan takes you offsides at 3 alongside Diesel. Remember, Burns football tomorrow. Pregame at 6:45, kickoff at 7. South Carolina football tomorrow as well against SC State at home at 7. We'll have breakdown of those games tomorrow on the show. For Tim, I'm Rob. Have a great rest of your day. And as always, thank you very much for listening to The Rob Brown Show right here on the Fan Upstate. Later, brother. All right, stream. Thank you guys very much. Appreciate you guys as always. Tell your friends about it. We'll